Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our Thursday update, recorded on October the 3rd. We've got some heavy rain on the way for the lower part of the South Island and for the northeastern side of the North Island. We've got this big area of high pressure well out to the east now, but it extends all the way up to Tonga, and it's driving down this humid, warmer airflow, and that is tapping into the low pressure zone around the Tasman Sea. And there's also a southerly coming in, and this is all feeding and meeting together in the lower part of the South Island, around coastal and eastern parts of Otago, about as far south as the Catlins. So this is something to keep an eye on over the next couple of days. Met Service, at the time of us recording this, had issued a red rain warning for the area. And that's because it doesn't take as much rain to flood places like Otago, especially coastal sides of it, as it does for the western side of the South Island. So this is something to keep up to date with if you do live around Otago. Meanwhile, to the north of the country, there is a front that moved along last night, brought the heavy rain and strong winds to northern parts of the country, and now that heavy rain is moving to the east. And behind it all, another big high. So let's have a look and see what's happening. 9 o'clock this morning, just before we recorded this, heavy rain moving into Bay of Plenty, some parts of the western North Island, and that is moving slowly across to the east. Plenty of other rain and showers around New Zealand, not huge amounts though, in places like North Canterbury, and yes, some snow up along the mountains. Let's animate the next 24 hours taking us through to Friday. You'll see that rain clearing away from the North Island, but feeding down and in to the lower part of the South Island, and that's the area right here where we're expecting to see some problems potentially over the next 24 to 48 hours as that rain gets pushed into there. And the low in the Tasman slowly starts to fall apart. Here is the rainfall for the next couple of days, covering really from Thursday morning through till Saturday morning. And you can see that heavy rain around East Cape, talking about 125 up to 200 millimetres falling in that one area. Further down into Hawke's Bay, not a huge amount of rain falling for you in that green and yellow shaded area, 5-10 millimetres for you, maybe a little bit more if you're higher up. But the main area on this map is certainly here, around coastal Otago, eastern Otago, and eastern coastal parts of Southland. This corner here does not normally get such a huge amount of rain falling in such a short amount of time. So we are seeing over 100 millimetres there, maybe 125 to 150, just depends on exactly where those bands all line up, and that wet weather will be carrying on for you off and on for the next couple of days at least. So please be up to date with those warnings. Here we are at lunchtime Friday. You can see that big high out to the east. That's the controlling feature, and it's driving down that airflow that is feeding in to the lower side of the South Island. But it's dry further northwards. You know, if you're in the northern half of Canterbury, not a huge amount of rain, and the North Island dries out as well. But the low still spinning offshore, could drive in a couple of showers still for the northern part of the country, and some might linger here in the eastern side first thing. So temperatures, well, they're not too bad, fairly mild around New Zealand at the moment. Still a little bit cool in the lower part of the South Island because despite that subtropical portion that is feeding into it, you also have some southerly air coming in too. So that's why it's not overly warm around the lower half of the South Island, but pretty mild for the north, some of you getting into the 20-degree mark. Now on Saturday, that rain eases in the lower part of the South Island. Good news. In the north, rain and showers return. I'll let you decide if that's good or not. Some of these downpours might be heavy. It's kind of a spring-like setup where it's a nor'wester, so it's mild. And sometimes you can get a few thunderstorms or at least some heavy downpours amongst all of that. But the low itself, it is weakening, and you'll notice that on Sunday it's pretty much gone. There's a little bit of low pressure off the coast of the South Island. Windy nor'westers, they carry on for the north, and down here around the South Island, many areas are dry. Just a few showers coming into the west coast. So next week kicks off pretty much the same as Sunday, although a little bit more rain here around the upper half of the South Island. I'm sure that'll be welcome for those of you in North Canterbury. If you live in Hawke's Bay and you need some rain, you might not get very much from this setup, but maybe some spillover coming through there on Monday. But certainly it's a bit of a spring-like day on Monday around the North Island, just like Sunday, where it's a bit windy, showery, but also fairly mild. And we go through to Tuesday, our final map for next week, and low pressure is returning once again. We've got a westerly flow coming in across New Zealand. High pressure is up here to the north. That is keeping us kind of blocked from whatever is going on north of the country. And this next big low driving in a southerly for Tasmania. I said it was the last map. I've just realised we've got one more. Here's Wednesday for next week. So low pressure drifts on in, but because it's large, the rain bands are broken up. And so you see rain coming into the northwestern corner of the South Island, a front moving over the North Island, more heavy downpours there. But around the eastern side of the South Island, not a lot of rain, at least not yet. This time of year, it's a bit topsy-turvy, but high pressure over here to the northeast of New Zealand. That is something we're expecting to see if a La Nina is announced this year. As I said in my Climate Watch video yesterday, it's still very 50-50. So take a look at that if you're interested to see what's going on. But for La Nina to really affect our weather, high pressure zones need to be out to the east like this one, and that encourages the airflow from up here to sort of drop down over us. That hasn't been happening very much lately, but we'll see what happens as we go through later in the month. But for now, our weather in New Zealand being dominated from the side, coming out of the western side of our maps and pushing in across us with highs, lows, highs, lows, highs. It's a bit of an even pattern at the moment coming through. That's all from me for today. I'll see you again tomorrow, Friday, with our next update.